Hi guys, thanks for joining me. It's been a really fun several days trying out this new Viltrox chip lens is what they're calling it. It's 28 millimeter fixed aperture of f4.5 and it's got autofocus. This lens is incredibly small, tiny, lightweight. You can really tuck it into your camera bag or your pocket and take it anywhere, anytime. So you always have the option of an autofocus wide angle lens. It's incredible. But what I'm really interested in is, can this lens shoot macro? Before I get to that, um, this feature of the lens, it's got this built-in shutter. And one thing you want to know if you're going to try this lens is the lens goes through a full calibration stroke when you turn on the camera. So that lens is going to pulse forward. If the shutter is closed, that will interfere with the calibration routine. So you always want to try to remember to keep this open when you turn the camera on. Now you might be familiar with this. Maybe you've seen some of the reviews online. And what I can tell you is everything in those reviews is true. The lens is sharp enough. It's small, light, compact. It's got some interesting effects that I'll talk about. I got this for myself off the Indiegogo campaign. No sponsorship or anything like that, and this isn't intended to be a review. I just wanted to share my experiences from several days of shooting with this and trying to answer the basic question, can the Viltrox 28 chip lens shoot macro? So you're thinking, how can I shoot macro with this pancake lens? If you're familiar with macro at all, maybe you're familiar with extension tubes, and that's the usual technique that we would use to convert a wide angle lens to shoot macro. So this is my Mikey auto extension tube set that I'm using, and you can see I've got a 16 millimeter and a 10 millimeter, and they can be stacked for a total of 26 millimeters. Now, 26 millimeters is almost perfect for getting 1-to-1 with a 28 millimeter wide angle lens. They're pretty easy to install. They just go right on the lens mount, just like that. And now I've got a setup, extremely light, compact, and yes, this will get me to 1-to-1 magnification. It's quite remarkable, and I'm kind of blown away. One note when using this lens, autofocus starts to fail when you put these extension tubes on. It's not really meant for that. With the 10 millimeter extension, I think it will work doing autofocus. Beyond that, I've been setting it to manual focus using my usual rock in and rock out. That's pretty much the way I shoot macro anyway, so there's no big deal there. So with, again, the 16 on the 10 gives me 26 millimeters. This gives me just about 1-to-1 magnification. If I use the 16 millimeter only, that's about a 0.66 ratio, reduction ratio. And then if I use the 10 millimeter only, that's about a 0.5. So that's an incredibly useful range for doing macro from 0.5 to 1-to-1. And from my testing, it's sharp enough to do macro. It's quite remarkable. It doesn't give the clinical sharpness that I really love, but it's a nice option for something that's maybe a little softer at the f4.5, shallower depth of field than I usually shoot at around f8, maybe f11. And with the flare and glare that are inherent with this lens, you can look at that as a way to enhance your macro images and maybe get a more dreamy composition. Yeah, so the answer to the question is yes, this is actually a viable option for shooting macro. The Viltrox 28 f4.5 autofocus chip lens can shoot macro.